The bowl lab. The bowl lab. I remember
The bowl lab.
But not in general, not specifics.
Close enough.
Okay, so here we are a year later to talk about title. Just a reminder for all of you that our title staff, our teachers that are provided under Title I Part A, provide Tier 2 and some Tier 3 supports for any of our students at East, West, and Big Fork. And they do that through a small group pull-out intervention, anywhere from 3 kids to 6 kids. Big part of their job as well, this is something we've been working on the past couple of years, is that they progress monitor weekly. That's part of their, on the days they don't do an intervention, their progress monitoring. And that is something that is looked at ongoing to ensure that the students are increasing in their reading proficiency. And if not, we'll talk about that in a minute. But that's something new we've added. Instead of waiting months later to the screener periods, it's an ongoing weekly little quick snippet so that we can make sure that kids are progressing at the rate they should each week. Because of that, we're continuing to build systems of support, just that continuous improvement with the students in reading that go to title and all the kids, of course. And then title, big part of title, our Title IV funding is improving our student academic achievement through other programs and activities. So there's those 3 areas: well-rounded, safe and healthy, and technology. And with the well-rounded, something we've been working on last year and we'll put into the grant this year is to support our GATE students. Those are our students needing enrichment. So last year we hired an ESP that provides some small group intervention work, so those kids are getting supported at their level. And this year we're going to do that as well. If it gets approved, hopefully get some kits and more things for those students. It's also provided funding for Starbase. That's been a field trip our 5th graders have taken, and it's been an amazing experience. Field trips to the Rife, any kind of like extra math masters, things like that that can provide that enrichment piece that our Title I staff doesn't do. With safe and healthy dollars, we've spent part of that on the officer at the high school, the school liaison officer, the resource officer, and part of that also is for our Navigate 360. That's for like our crisis management planning and system that helps us with that. And then technology, we just get a little bit of money and it's been used to buy headphones. Students have all this testing with all these screeners now at the elementary. And so we make sure that they have headphones and they break all the time. So we need lots of headphones. And also just some professional development for staff if they need it. Great news this year. Kids that are into title have scored below the 40th percentile on fall or winter screeners. So any kids that flag into that are eligible to receive an intervention. We don't pick up 100% of the kids, but we do as much as we can. The other students would have a reading core intervention or go to ATSIS. So most of the kids are covered, or their classroom teacher, or both. This year, 268 students were provided intervention from a title teacher. That's not including ATSIS, just title funded teachers. And very exciting, 35% of those students met the exit criteria and were out of title. And remember last year I touched a little bit on our exit criteria is very rigorous. You have to meet the end of the year mark and hold that for a number of weeks before you're considered exiting. So it's not just like, oh, they got there, they're done. They have to continue that progress. And that is an 18% increase from last year.
Wow.
Which seems small, but that's huge. We had years where we had 0%. So that's very, very exciting. I attribute that to the strong collaboration between our ATSIS and title teachers. They're also collaborating with the classroom teacher, the building principals. There's the whole team, the MTSS teams at the schools that really look at the students, the data, and what to do about it, which is awesome. Changes, because we're always looking to be better. We have 20 of our title and classroom teachers are going to be doing an OG fidelity check training. So this came about, the students are doing the teachers are doing the Orton Gillingham training and title teachers to their students. But some of the teachers, and we were talking about, well, how do we know if we're doing this correctly? Because you're teaching the students, but there's not watching each other or making sure. So we're going to get trained in fidelity checks, and staff will be able to observe and just ensure that we're all teaching and giving intervention to the best fidelity to make sure that the kids can grow as much as they can. So the teachers are really excited about that. I can't believe we have 20 of them. We're going to continue to look at our schedule. We have the intervention schedule, making sure that when we have our intervention block, that our reading core, our teachers, special ed, title, ADSIS, everybody goes in, intervenes with those kids. Everybody gets what they want. That way we're not taking away from core instruction, math, reading, science. That is a really huge key piece in increasing this achievement. Having the expectations will continue with that progress monitoring and also reviewing student data at our PLC early out time, at the monthly building MTSS meetings. That is going to be a key piece in ensuring that not only are we looking at the school as a whole, but if kids are not progressing, what are we doing about it then? Ensuring, are we making sure we've done everything through our flow chart for MTSS, if they need special education programming or assessment, or do we need to change the intervention? There's lots of very in the weeds information that we need to look at. And of course, we want to increase the number of students we exit from title. That's always our goal. We were at 35%. We want to get that even higher next year. And a big piece of our work moving forward, we do need to strengthen our parent involvement activities. We have a Title I advisory committee, one at East, one at West, and one at Big Fork. And it's just a piece as the title director, I think we need to increase a little bit. So I've been working with the principals on strengthening the committee, just what we can do to have some more family, parent guardian nights, or just involving them so they understand not only reading with them, but what this is all about and what title programming does and how we support the kids. So that will be where our work kind of lies this next year. Any questions about title programming?
Sure. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No questions. Just great job, Jill.
Okay.
Appreciate the great work and progress on moving forward. But one question I do have is, how do we reach out to those parents or guardians to ask them to participate? What's our process for that?
Yep, we have a number of things. We have a parent compact that is on the website, and that is handed out. It's a letter, like a paper letter that goes home and parents sign. And we have school-wide title. So every kid is a title student, which is great. So those go home to all families at those 3 schools. And it just talks about ways to get involved, some information. They sign up for it, and then the school, the principal, and the team, the title teachers and whoever else is on the team, would contact those families if they're interested in a variety of things. They also have a committee at the school. They're supposed to be meeting frequently, and they come up with agenda and things they want to work on. Usually it's PTC members and parents that are pretty involved. They have family nights. East and West and Big Fork have different events they have that bring families in. They talk about the program. They typically read some books or do some sort of literacy activity. I still think there's some pieces we could strengthen to try to get more people in. So definitely it's something we're going to work on the program.
Thank you.
Jill, did you talk about why Cohasset's not included?
Oh, I know. Yes.
Yeah.
Good question. Cohasset is not included up here because we do not meet the criteria for receiving, goes by free and reduced numbers, and we're down, I can't think of the exact number right now, but anywhere from 22 to 27% free and reduced that would qualify for free and reduced lunch. So we don't meet the threshold to receive funds to have a title teacher. Yeah, we definitely have need, just as it doesn't show up in the in that application, although we had 99% fill it out last year. So I feel we have an accurate picture, but we just don't receive that money from the state.
We do have an ADSIS interventionist set,
Yes.
Cohasset, to kind of make up for some of that. And Jill does an amazing job as a leader there too. If you look at our data, Cohasset is a real strong school when it comes to student achievement. And so despite not having that resource, a lot of good results still coming from Cohasset.
Yeah.
So we've got a really high bar for expectations on reading, and I hope you share my respect and admiration for the title and ADSIS staff. on some incredible work
Mhm.
under some very difficult circumstances. The success that they're finding in this area is really remarkable. And I hope you'll share our admiration and appreciation for those people.
Yes, I will. They work really hard, and they collaborate, and they research, and they're up on the latest. And I think they feel good when they see the success because they're part of that. And there's nothing like helping a child learn how to read or they get stronger, because you almost can feel the pride that they have. So it's a very exciting position, and they're great teachers. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jill.
Okay.
So you're on the agenda for the main meeting too.
I am.
We could push you into the workshop now if you'd like to do that.
Sure.
Looks like you got about 17 minutes.
Perfect. The principals are timing me.
Does that,
Is Mrs. Berg on there? She said she's
well,
gonna
they're
time me.
timing me too, so.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Jill.
Yes. Okay, so now on to Cohasset, the non-title school. It was really hard to make this presentation. I promised my colleagues I'd keep it short. These are the four main things I'm going to talk about today, and they're all celebrations because we had such a great year. Everything I've dreamed of, been a principal there for 9 years, finally came true this year, as you'll see in the next slides. So there wasn't really anything to work on. We still have stuff to work on, believe me, but it's more of just how amazing the staff are at Cohasset and the students. We received an award, I'm sure you guys were aware, the PBIS reward for the sustained implementation of PBIS success from MDE. So that was really exciting that we got that. We've been doing that for a number of years and following through, and we've seen the benefit of that, as I'll talk about later. We continue to see increased proficiency in our spring data on our math and reading FastBridge assessments. We continue to see a decrease in our office discipline referrals, and we are seeing an increase in our student SABRE scores. I'll talk about that too more specifically. And our music and our PE programming has just been top-notch this past year. And these are going to be hard to see. I'll just briefly describe them. And I can honestly say, when I had to choose a slide to put on here about our academic proficiency for every single grade level, K-5, I could have picked math and reading. They were both that high. So I just sort of chose whatever one I wanted to do, but I could have put both up here. So this is kindergarten early reading. Again, last year I talked about this. We're up in the 90 percentiles again. I think we're at 95 proficiency of all of our kindergartners. So second year in a row, actually third year in a row, which is pretty exciting. You want to see the purple. You have each classroom there that grew, and then as a grade level band, you can see that that's the first graph. So you want minimal pink at the end of the year in the last third bar graph, and more purple. So as you can see, I think it's just a couple kids. And as a reminder, these are all students that received Tier 2 intervention, and also students on IEPs. Grade 1, early reading. Again, you can see the increase in growth along the year. And again, we're at 85% proficiency. So this is first grade. So we've got our solid kindergartners, now our solid first grade. Grade 2, this is fluency. And this one does not look as pretty. It's at 64% at the end of the year as a grade level. But there is some interesting information that doesn't come up on here. They started at 42% proficient in fluency, and these two teachers worked very diligently on fluency, and they jumped about 20% points, so that's a lot. This grade level is 2/3 of students on IEPs, so it's a majority of the grade level. Our student support specialist spends most of her time in this grade level, and most of our reading core and our ADSES pull kids from this grade level. And so look what they did with all of that support. It's amazing. So that was a huge celebration. Although we don't like 64%, but for this grade with all their barriers, it's pretty good, really good. And again, fluency, grade 3, we call this our unicorn group. They've always had strong proficiency. They had in kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Their fluency was probably their weakest skill, and it wasn't even weak. They came out strong again. We're in the 70th percentiles. It's hard to keep that rolling from kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and then there's this jump. And 3, 4, and 5 get a little more difficult. And they still grew, and they still have that strong proficiency. Grade 4, this is a reading, kind of general reading, what mimics the MCA. Again, they're real close, just under 80%. Strong proficiency. In 5th grade, I pulled a math. They had the least amount of growth from fall to spring. There was still growth. And this was an area that by 5th grade, fact fluency, math fluency is really challenging to change because they built habits all along. And it was something that both teachers really focused on. And they were very proud of their students, and they saw a change and an increase in a positive way, which is sometimes challenging in 5th grade. So it was good information. We're excited for you guys to see our MCAs, our preliminary MCA scores look really good. So we're excited for those to come out. So our Student Savers, when I talked about our PBIS reward and how we know it's working, this is just a little snippet from 2nd grade. That's the grade level that most of social skill lessons are taught in our school by our special ed teachers and by our student support specialist. The Student Savers, this is them reporting how they feel about them in our school. In the fall, they were at 47%, felt good and noticed. And by the end of the year, it was up to 72%. That's huge. That means our less office referrals, the students feel better, they feel noticed, and all of our PBIS efforts are working, especially in a grade level that has a lot of challenges. And then our Phi Ed and music. Although they don't teach math, they don't teach reading or the core subjects, they are a huge piece of our school. At our spring concert this year, we had 152 ukuleles, which is a lot. And they all were playing in sync, which was good. Mr. Alto has volunteered on his lunch break to have a violin and a ukulele club. So he has 2 separate ones, and the kids just come, and it's amazing. You just hear violin and ukuleles playing. It's quite entertaining. Our Light the Night, we had record attendance this year. We had 120 plus singers. My daughter did this 4 years ago when she was in 4th grade. I think there was 8 students there. So just the increase that Mr. Alto, the passion that he's brought for music in our school. We had our first in-house holiday concert with our new stage. We have to go to the Rife. Some of you came. That was a huge, huge, exciting piece to have the community and the families all come and sing in our own gym. Mrs. Cody, our amazing gym teacher, organized this big first annual pumpkin run. And they had to run around the school. They got the first pumpkin and a ribbon, and it was like a little fun run. They ran half a mile, but it built a lot of community in our school, and it was good leadership by Mrs. Cody. And she said her goal is 98% participation rate in PE. Jump roping was a hit, and that's a pretty big number that most kids at our school, when they go to gym, are actively, attempting to participate if PE is not their thing, but that we don't have kids, away from that. So that's pretty exciting. And that is Cohasset. Lots of good things that a principal would dream of are finally happening, which is really exciting.
Yeah, congrats, Jill, on the great work there. I think you've really put together a good program.
Jill, would you mind digging down a bit in math? I saw a lot of information on reading.
Yes.
And how that's growing and being supported. Can you say a word about math?
At Cohasset?
Yes.
It's similar proficiency or even higher. And I chose reading more on each of them because that was something that our MCA scores are lower in reading. Just all around, our FastBridge data has been lower, our STAR data. And so that's something that we can really see the impact of our work.
Okay.
Which our ATSIS interventions are focused on reading. We have reading core. We don't only math intervention we have is if a teacher does something. So I feel like that shows gives the teacher something tangible, like, okay, we did this and now look at where I feel like our math has always been a little higher, but it is, it is increasing
Okay,
from before, yes.
thank you.
Good question.
So Jill, I'm just going to ask, because we always, since I've been here, we always talked about how do we put all of our schools on an equal playing field, right? How do we get everybody's scores up? And I'm just looking at this those are massive gains in a data space. I mean, those are massive. And so how are we, and maybe this is more of a question for both of you, but how are we sharing some of your secrets, right? Secrets, not really secrets, but how are you layering things, the tools that seem to be working? Because people know the tools, but sometimes it's the delicacy of how you're layering them that help. And I'm just wondering how that's getting shared across through the system.
I think one of the things that if you observe Jill, like I sort of get the chance to do, whether it's close or from afar, there's just a lot of intentionality with what she does. When she's planning her meetings with her staff, it's intentional. When she's gathering data and using it, it's intentional. Wednesdays are very intentional. So there's a ton of intentionality. None of that happens by accident, and she's incredibly diligent, I would say, about, and like, I don't want to say like radically diligent about data. Like,
It's okay.
how are the kids doing? I mean, yeah, I mean, don't you agree though? Like your data, like, what is the data saying, and why aren't we? She's radically diligent about that, and so I think some of the practices that Jill has been doing with her leadership team at her school and how she's using data are some of the things that our other schools are picking up with their teams, how they're using data. Just Jill's been kind of out in front on a lot of things, yeah.
Thank you.
And our intervention schedule, that was the game changer. We were doing a lot of the things we still do that Mr. Gross was talking about, but that's really honing in that schedule that's where the change happened. And everyone's sticking to that schedule. So if it's reading intervention for first grade, everyone's there and we're not missing it. And you're there and you're doing it. And then the classroom frees up the classroom teacher to provide enrichment or their intervention with their groups. So it's not like, oh, I didn't get to that today because we got busy. It's like, nope, every day. And everyone just really jumped on board because the first year K1 and 2 did it and they saw, everyone's like, whoa, how did you get that increased proficiency? We want to do that. And I was like, okay, we're all doing it. And then everyone's like, okay, how'd that go? And that collaboration. And it's like, sport. When you win, then it feels good. And I think the teachers feel like they're winning and it's working. So they want to keep doing it. But they work hard. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone at Cohasset, we get there and everyone's working hard the whole day. Early outs, they're working hard. I mean, we have fun, but business comes first and the students, and they work very hard.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for leading that group.
Congratulations on your leadership, and please, congratulations to all your staff.
Yeah.
It's a great
Absolutely.
feeling within the walls of your school.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks, Jill.
At this point, we're going to adjourn the workshop. We'll come back for the regular meeting at 6:30. Meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So we'll
Moved by Pat, second by David. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. We had previously moved the principal's report to the workshop, so we'll move on to approve the minutes of the 6/21/23 regular school board meeting, and looking for a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Mindy,
Second.
second by Ben. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Approve the minutes of the 7/13/23 school board workshop.
So moved.
Moved by Melissa,
second.
second by Pat. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The 7/13/23 minutes are approved. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the 7/14 special school board meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Mindy,
Second.
second by Melissa. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Looking for a motion to approve the June 2023 claims in the amount of $6,506,453.41.
So moved, David.
Moved by David,
Support.
second by Ben. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? June 2023 claims are approved. Looking to approve a resolution to accept gifts and donations for April, May, and June 2023. David, do you have the resolution?
This is the resolution for accepting donations. Whereas Minnesota Statutes 123B02, subdivision 6 provides that, quote, the board may receive for the benefit of the district bequests, donations, or gifts for any proper purpose and apply the same to the purpose designated. In that behalf, the board may act as trustee of any trust created for the benefit of the district and for the benefit of the pupils thereof, including trusts created to provide pupils of the district with advanced education after completing high school in the advancement of education, end quote. And whereas Minnesota Statutes 46503 provides that, quote, any city, county, school district, or town may accept a grant or device of real or personal property and maintain such property for the benefit of its citizens in accordance with the terms prescribed by the donor. Nothing herein shall authorize such acceptance or use for religious or sectarian purposes. Every such acceptance shall be by resolution of the governing body adopted by a 2/3 majority of its member expressing such terms in full, end quote. Therefore, be it resolved that the school district of Independent School District 318 gratefully accepts the following donations as shown in the attachments provided to the board. April of 2023, $19,693.66. May of 23, $20,389.04. And June of 2023, $28,599.83.
Looking for a motion to approve the gifts and donations.
So moved.
Moved by Pat,
Second.
second by Mindy. Discussion?
Mr. Chair, just a shout out again to everybody, community residents, business organizations, and working with this partnership with us here at the school district. It's over $68,000. I mean, it's just remarkable, phenomenal. So thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The gifts and donations are approved. Moving on to the consent agenda. Casey?
Good evening, Board. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have Cynthia Aho, Food and Nutrition Retirement. Cynthia has served the district for 28 years. Joseph Anselmo, Teacher Resignation. Joseph Anselmo, Basketball Coach Resignation. Kent Barrel, Bus Driver Retirement. Kent has served for 9 years. Margot Butcher, Volleyball Coach Replacement Hire. Ann Campbell, Community Education, Safe Routes to School Coordinator, Replacement Hire. Zachary Erickson, Teacher Resignation. Kelly Hansen, Girls Basketball Coach Resignation. Cheryl Lewis, Teacher Resignation. Toby Morse, Custodian Replacement Hire. Benjamin Panchishan, Part-Time ESL/ELL, Teacher Replacement Hire. Megan Pearson, Facilities Secretary Resignation. Amanda Ruttinen, Teacher Replacement Hire. David Scally, Special Education Teacher Replacement Hire. Logan Schlater, ESP Resignation. Matthew Shepard, Custodian Resignation. Katie Simmons, ESP Resignation. Kaylee Stangland, ESP Resignation. Shane Williams, Dissolution of Employment. Simon Wilson, Special Education Teacher Replacement Hire. And Angela Zebro, Volleyball Coach Resignation. I'm recommending approval of the consent agenda.
There's no discussion on the consent agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve the
So moved.
consent. Moved by Pat,
Second.
second by Melissa. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Consent agenda passes. Next item on the agenda, approve recommendation from Fringe Benefits Committee for the 2023-24 health insurance premiums and plan. Casey and Superintendent Gross.
Thank you. So right before you, you have a recommendation from the Fringe Benefit Committee. This was a bid year for us, so there's a few things happening. We went out to bid and multiple carriers bid the 2-year contract. The Fringe Benefit Committee is recommending 3 things in this proposal. They're recommending a 2-year renewal with Health Partners. That's our current carrier. We are self-insured, so this is the admin fees that it costs just to administer the plan. The committee is also recommending a full plan year for year 1 and a shortened plan year for year 2. That'll be a 9-month year that will align us with our fiscal year and allow us to get our premium set sooner and in that original budget that you approve in June. And then lastly, the committee is recommending the board approve rates for the upcoming year starting October 1. The rates being proposed is a 15% reduction in current year premiums for moving to the high deductible health plan and a 5% increase for those retirees or those that remain on the current health plan. Any questions?
Any questions from the board?
Casey, what happens if that we don't get moved to the HSA in negotiations?
The premiums that are being set would allow us to have either plan or both. So some units could be on one, some on another. We know for sure we will have retirees on the current plan, but they are priced and bid in a way that they could both run at the same time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, if I can, just to expand on that question a little bit. The budget that was established for fiscal year 24, the assumption and the assumptions that were made feeding that budget that was approved in June were based on a shift. And any salary changes based in those assumptions were also based on that shift to the HSA or high deductible plan. So there's the kind of the insurance consequence or impact, and there's also the impact on, contracts and what we're able to do with our budget negotiations moving forward too.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I would recommend that we do 3 separate motions on these because there's 3 separate recommendations. Even though it's one recommendation from the Fringe Benefit Committee, there's actually 3 separate ones.
We can do that. So Casey, can you give us the first one?
Yeah, the first motion would be to join a 2-year renewal with Health Partners.
So
So
moved by Pat,
Second.
second by David. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so the 2-year extension is approved. Casey, the second one?
The second recommendation would be to implement a full plan year, year 1, and a shortened 9-month plan year for year 2 of the renewal.
so moved.
Moved by Pat,
Second.
second by Mindy. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That proposal passes. The third one, Casey?
Item number 3 is rate setting for the 23-24 year. Looking for motion for a 15% reduction for those moving to the high deductible health plan and a 5% increase in premiums for those on the current health plan.
So moved.
Moved by Pat, second by Melissa. Discussion?
Mr. Chair, I just want to thank the committee and George, the consultant, as well as Matt and Casey on this. This has been a long process since the last negotiations to now, and it might seem small steps, but they're pretty big steps that this committee has gone through. And just the educational piece on understanding from where we're at on this high option plan to going to the healthcare savings account. Big learning curve there. And as you see, the last statement there about still needs to be more education on it. So again, we've come a long ways in a long 2 years, and there's more to be done here in this for the Fringe Benefit Committee. But again, kudos to the committee in itself and Matt and Casey
Here, here.
being there. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chair, I will abstain. My wife is retiring.
Okay. Julie, did you get that? Okay. So the motion passes. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is to accept some first readings. Superintendent Gross, do you want to talk about those?
You bet.
Readings of policy? Go
You
ahead.
bet. As with most odd year legislative sessions, there was a great deal of work done by the legislature on school operations and policy. The School Board Association is trying to catch up with their policy services, and so some of these are a reflection of the legislative action that was taken and subsequent recommendations by MSBA. Policy 419 is related to, or is our tobacco-free environment. There's some changes there related to that are culturally respective of some practices by Indigenous people, and so I'd encourage you to check that out. Also, I think updating some language relative to American Indian culture and people. Policy 419, that's a first reading, so no action required. Policy 419.8 is a kind of a corollary to that. Again, talks about smudging and that Indigenous tradition and how that interfaces with a tobacco-free policy. And so I'd encourage you to read that. This is a policy that was adapted from a number of school districts in the state that have worked on this practice as well. Policy 516.5, first reading as well, so no action. One of the changes that came this spring was a requirement that school districts possess a supply of opiate antagonists in the building, 2 doses. The most common one that we hear about is Narcan. That's the brand name. And so we're in the process now of acquiring the necessary doses. Our school nurse, Jamie Goodwin, has been tracking that down. We have a number of doses to distribute. And so this policy comes into that, how we're going to acquire, hand out, and store and train around that item. One of the things that is changing and evolving even as we speak and expected this fall is that medication will become over the counter, which will mean it won't be regulated anymore, and that'll change how this policy works and is administered. So there'll be more changes in this fall, I'm guessing. Again, if there's questions or other things that you're curious about, feel free now or in between now and our next meeting to reach out.
Can I just say then the smudging and pipe ceremony policy, they're very intentional about teaching the why they do what they do. And so that's part of this whole policy was there's a whole procedural piece and a teaching and learning that can go along with it. So Principal Goodwin has been really intentional about that, and Jessica as well, that there has to be a teaching component to it so that it doesn't spiral into things that just aren't true.
And working closely with our Indian Parent Committee and those kinds of things. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a very, the idea is that if it's going to happen, that we have a process and that it's in its proper place and procedure and it's done appropriately. The only policy that requires action tonight is policy 705. There were some revisions made there to align with MSBA and also the activity of our district's finance committee. And you can see some language on page 4 of 8 of that as it relates to portfolio diversification as well. This is the second reading, and so I'd be looking for and recommending approval.
Looking for a motion to approve policy 705.
So move, David.
Moved by David,
Second.
second by Melissa. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Policy 705 is approved. Next item on the agenda, approve purchase of services agreement with ISD 2 Hill City for a shared music teacher. Casey?
Thank you. So before you, you have a purchase of service agreement with School District 002 in Hill City. It would allow us to share a music teacher 50-50 between Hill City and Big Fork. And we would just pay half of the pay and the benefits associated with that employee if they're hired. Looking for approval.
Looking for a motion to approve? Moved by Ben,
Second, David.
second by David. Discussion?
Mr. Chair, if I can just add it, and you probably heard it in Casey's comments, but just want to make sure it's clear. There's no current, Hill City doesn't have an applicant right now. This just opens the door for, if they do, for us to be able to move on that. Also sort of gives their board cover for hiring a full-time or posting a full-time, which is a more attractive position. I have been talking with Mr. DeCoster about some alternatives up there. We've been kind of working on that and some community individuals to fill that need in some creative ways if something doesn't come to pass. And if you know anybody.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on the agenda, the next item on the agenda is board reports. Anybody want to go first?
I can go, Mr. Chair. Just the last month since our last meeting to now, it's just been involved in a lot of negotiations here at the school district, and we're making progress. Slow as it is, we're making progress. Just want to thank Casey and Kara and Matt for their leadership at the table with it. We still got a ways to go with it, but we're getting there little by little with it. I also want to say congratulations to Cynthia and Kent for their years of service here at the district on their retirement. And lastly, I just want to say I've been thinking about the Blandon employees and their strike out there. And It's not just they themselves, it's the community as a whole. How it affects our district going forward, don't know, as well as the company itself. So hopefully they can get that thing settled sooner than later. So that's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mindy? No? David?
Yes, I had the opportunity to spend some time on some budget meetings, which was helpful. Spent some time in policy review, which Matt just reported on, and a lot of time in negotiations. And a note of appreciation to all the people at the negotiations table. It's challenging for all, but we are moving ahead.
Ben?
Negotiations.
Melissa?
Yeah, negotiations in 318, but also with IASC. So IASC is also in the middle of negotiations, which I'm a part of a lot of the contracts in that space as we try and figure out what sustainable programs look like in the future and what we can hold. And I would just say thank you to all of the unions we've been working with, because they truly are working with us to try and figure out, like, knowing that some of our funding has gone away. So how do we keep these good things going for kids and staff? So shout out to the IAS folks and 318 too. I mean, we know we're in a tough spot. So how do we work together so that we get a brighter future?
And for me, negotiations also. Moving on the agenda, superintendent's report, Superintendent Gross.
Yeah, third or fourth or fifth, the negotiations, we're negotiating with all of our labor groups. Every single one in the district is at the table. It's notable. I think it's notable that our units are, whether it's reluctantly or whatever, understanding that this health insurance change, although, maybe not something people would choose, is something that we need to do for the long-term viability and health of our district. So appreciative of that. Planning for the fall's in full swing. It's less than 45 days till Children's Show. And so we're ramping up. We've got August jam-packed full of training for principals, training for new staff, training for teachers. On the 10th, we have our Teaching and Learning Institute that we're co-hosting with IASC. And so lots of sessions there. We have the theme for the day is meeting the needs of all learners. And so there's just a broad spectrum of things there that I think are coming together real nicely. We're still kind of back to the policy comments I made, still sorting out the impact of legislation, whether that be what's happening in media centers or what's happening with Narcan or what's happening with funding or what's happening with many different aspects. A lot changed, not all positive for us. And so there's a lot of tails and twine to unwind there, but that's what's occupying most of our time.
Thank you. Upcoming school board committee meeting dates are posted on each agenda. School board meeting agendas can be found on the district website and on the designated posting site at the ISD 318 Administration Building. Is there any other business to come before the board? Julie, do we have anyone for public input? Okay. I'm going to read a brief statement prior to public input. The ISD 318 School Board shall provide a specific period of time where persons may address the school board on any topic subject to the limitations of Policy 206. All individual comments shall be less than 5 minutes. Any group of 5 or more students must appoint one person to present the group's views to the board. Depending on the number of persons present, the school board chair reserves the right to set further time limits to allow participation within the allocated time. The board shall not allow negative comments in public session about individual employees or students. Specific factual information or recitation of existing policy may be furnished in response to inquiries, but the board shall not deliberate or decide regarding any issue that's not included in the agenda posted with the notice of the meeting. If there are more requests than time available, priority will be given to persons that reside within the Grand Rapids Big Fork School District. And it looks like we have one person, Don Wydra.
Howdy.
Meeting.
I just wanted to say, thanks for letting me come and thanks for letting me speak. I got nothing specific other than I'm worried about the teachers. I live in Colorado, but I got a cabin here. I'm thinking about relocating back here and I have grandchildren and family here. So I'm real concerned about what we're doing to retain our teachers. So I read something back home about the fact that 318 is not a member of the state back funding or something, that there's a special, how do I say it, a special agreement between school districts and the state education, that there's a funding issue where they give us more money or they don't. I'm not clear on that. Can anyone clarify that?
I'm not-
I'm not sure if I know what I'm talking about, but
Yeah.
it made me believe that, 318 has to have a budget and they can't go over that budget or they have to lay people off. Other school districts are allowed to borrow from the state or something. I don't know. Or that they have a way that they can do that where they don't have to lay off teachers.
If it would be useful, I can follow up with you and probably dig deeper into this.
Yeah, it was just one of those things that you read on the headlines of the news,
Yeah.
and trying to follow what's going on. So anyway, I appreciate you all doing your work. Keep it up.
Thank
You
you.
got my vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I didn't vote really, but
Don, can Julie get your number there? I'll give you a call tomorrow.
Sure. 208 949.
At this point, we're at the end of the agenda. Meeting's adjourned.